Well, I still think brand purpose matters when it's done well and when it's done with integrity and when it's driven out of how a brand behaves, not just out of its communication strategy. I think the backlash has probably been because when it's not done in that way, brands can look a bit superficial and as though they're jumping on the purpose bandwagon, and I think then consumers spot it and just it feels fake and insincere and doesn't do the brand any favours. I think when purpose goes wrong, it's because it's not done with integrity and driven out of the real understanding of what that brand could credibly do in the world, and it feels bolted on and it feels transient, so it's not something that the brand is going to stay with. It feels like it's just done for communication purposes briefly, and it doesn't feel like it really is behaving in a way that is genuinely driven out of caring about the cause that it's getting behind. It just feels too temporary, I suppose. I'd like to talk about Bodyform, or Libresse as it's known on the continent, as an example of a brand that I think's done purpose well. It created a brand belief about living fearless about 4 years ago, and that was going to be its kind of call to arms for women around the world to stop being held back by their own insecurities and live a more fearless life. And as part of that, they wanted to bust some of the taboos around period care that existed in the world. We started by talking about blood, sweat and tears in sport, because no one talked about periods affecting sport. And this year we started to talk about why no communication featured real menstrual blood. And they were driven not out of a desire to be sensational, they were driven out of a genuine belief that unless we can be honest and open about the category, people can't talk about it and therefore deal with some of the concerns and the issues around it. So it wasn't just for creating sensational headlines, it was because the brand really wants to break the taboos in the category in order to help women and society, I'd say, move on. So I like it because we've remained committed to breaking taboos over a number of years, so it feels like it's not just a one-off. It's rooted in the category, so we're not just trying to take on all of women's causes in the world, we're talking specifically about menstruation. And I think it's given the company a real conviction behind doing more than making very efficient Sanpro products. And it's got them excited and galvanised behind doing something purposeful in the world. Well, I think if you're looking at going forwards, developing purpose for your brands, you're going to have to acknowledge the fact that there is going to be a degree of cynicism out there. That there is a danger that people look at it and go, oh, here they go, they're just jumping on the bandwagon of purpose. So you have to be committed to it over the long term. You have to really think about your right to play in that space. You can't just take any old cause and try and bolt your brand to it. It's got to be really driven out of a deep understanding of that brand and the consumer that you have. And you've got to do, not just say. I think the other thing that potentially brands go wrong is when they just make it about some sort of communications message without actually doing something in the real world that makes a difference.